In this demo, we look at how I use CLI to build a web app. In this case, a chess tutoring app. I'm a backend developer, so I depend on Q with all things related to the front-end tech stack. Now, I'm not saying that this will be a smooth ride. We might hit some bugs along the way, but the entire time I'll be relying on Q to help me troubleshoot them. I said earlier on that I don't know the front-end tech stack, so for this, I rely completely on Q to do all the recommendations for me. So let's get started. So I already typed the QChat command to invoke the agent, and now using natural language, I asked Q for what I want. So I want to build a chess tutoring app, and I will ask it to give me that for Python as the backend technology, but for front end, everything else will be up to Q. So I want to build a web application that teaches me how to play chess. I want it to be based on Python in the back end. And I press enter, and then let's see what then happens. The agent starts to do all the work. Q keeps me in the loop with everything else before Q starts to generate any of the components for me. It reads back to me what it will be doing. So it has done a summary of what I've asked for, and it's now also doing a summary of what it will give me in the end. It's giving me the key components that it will create, the packages that will be created, the project that will be created, and it starts to generate the code as well. I'm seeing what looks like CSS, but what would I even know? Because I don't know anything that's front end. So that's still going through and that's generating. And I'm starting to see some of the databases that will be created as well, where some of the knowledge and the information of the web application will be stored. Q is keeping me in the loop. It's telling me what the next steps are now and what it's considering to create the authentication of the web app, the database that will be set up, the API endpoints that will be created, and how the visualization of this chessboard will look like. So it looks quite exciting to me so far. What I do like here and what Q does is that it does keep you as the human in the loop. So I'm being kept in the loop here. As an example, it's saying that it might expand the app and set up an additional database. It's saying that it might implement additional user authentication, and also it might enhance what this front end application will look. I don't want any of this as yet. I just want to see what the basic app will look like. So I will pass on this, and I will do that by chatting with the agent. So I'm just going to say for now that I don't want this additional stuff. I just want the basic, and then we'll see what we get. I don't want to expand. That's what I'm saying in plain natural language. And then we'll see what Q then does. And I've entered that command, and it's thinking and it's talking back to me. Again, it's saying it understands that I don't want to expand any of the chess application that's outlined initially, and then asking me, is there something else that I want to work on instead of that? And right now, I don't want to work on anything else. So I will again say, I'm good for now, thank you. And then we'll see what we get. Am I the only one who's polite when talking to agents? Because I just said, I'm good, thanks. And I've wondering, am I the only one who's very polite with LLMs? Let's see. So Q said, welcome. If you need any other help, let me know. Have a great day. So Q polite to me as well. And now we will continue. It looks like the app has been created, but I don't see where to actually run this app. It might be that there is a command that I missed somewhere that I did not respond to. And now we're starting to hit those bugs and issues that I thought we might hit along the way. So let's see what I actually missed, because what I was expecting was that I would now be able to run this app because Q has created it for me, but I don't see anything. So going back to the initial commands and the instructions back that I got from Q, what did I miss? It looks to me that I missed when I said to Q that I don't want to create anything. I should have actually let Q continue there. So let's go back and see if I can undo that response there. And then we'll see what gets built for me. So I'm saying build the app for me, including all the next steps and considerations you outlined earlier. And again, the agent is thinking, and let's see what I will get back this time around. It wants to run a shell command. And it is asking me, do I want Q to run this shell command? There is a command with QChat, a trust command that you can use. You could actually, right at the beginning when you do your QChat, already say trust tools that Q recommends for you. But we recommend that you don't, from the get-go, say trust all tools, especially when you are working with production environments. So I did not enter this command in the beginning. Now I have the option again to say, can Q run this tool? So do I trust Q to run it? And this time around, because we've been through the process quite a bit, I will enter T to say I trust and let Q go and create and run this shell command. So I've entered Q, and now Q will start to create the necessary files for the application. And now it's telling me all the files that it will create and the path where all the files will actually be saved. Again, asking me, do I trust you to run the commands for me? And I'm saying, yes, I trust. So I will enter T again for the trust. While it's thinking, let me just let you know what files I'm seeing being created here. So there's a Python chess, that will be for my back end. And there's Flask for the front end. That's what I'm seeing so far. And G Unicorn, I think that might be for the chess application itself. But let's see what else will be created. I can see what is there for the databases, Flask SQL Alchemy. And it's still, the agent is going through the process still. What's also been a great option that I've really liked, especially when you're starting out, is the option that Q will give me or you to either create all the requirements using Q, or Q will hand over the control to you and let you create those requirements. I think it's a great option to have, and especially as you improve your knowledge working with whatever language that you are building with, that you have that option to either run everything yourself, or Q will take over and do that for you if you're not yet comfortable to do all of that. So earlier on, Q outlined the databases that it will create for me, the authentication. I can see that's now being created already. And now it's creating for me the chess engine in Python. So that'll be the back end. So that's completed. And now it's creating the lessons, because I did say I want to be taught how to play chess. Very quickly, while it's still busy creating the lesson side of it, let's take a look at what the chess Python application or file looks like. So that seems to be the main engine of this chess application. So it's defining the rules, which player starts, how the player starts to move around, and how to actually just move around on the chessboard. And I see the instructions as well to me as a player as I learn to play using this chess application. And I can see where it's going to tell me when to move horizontally and when to move vertically. And I see other instructions and how each piece on the chessboard will be moving around. So that's quite exciting to see. And now I can't wait for the other side of it, the lesson side of it, to finish. And then we can see what that looks like. So that also has finished creating, and now it's creating the register. This is the authentication side of the application, how you will do the registration and how you will be authenticated on the app, and what the login will also look like. So what I'm seeing here is quite an involved authentication side of things, and I was hoping that we wouldn't need to do authentication, especially at the beginning with the first iteration of this application. I just wanted an application that just lets me directly go in and play chess and learn how to play chess. I will have an option to say if I want to continue with what I'm seeing already, or if I want to change anything. And I will take that opportunity to say that I do not really want to do a full authentication and registration upfront. And as soon as this portion of the agent finishes running, I will do that. And hopefully I will still have the opportunity to ask for that. And then we can see if anything will be changed at all. So I've canceled what was there because I want to go and ask for this before we continue and move anywhere else. So doing a Control-C to cancel just gives me back the command so that I can say again in natural language what it is that I want. So I'm going to say, I don't want the app to do login, registration, and authentication. I just want to directly play as soon as I launch the app. I'm going to enter that and see what we get. So it's gone back to thinking. Q is telling me that Q understands that I want a simpler chess learning app without login, registration, and authentication, just direct access to the learning content. Now, Q is saying it's now going to revise the files that we created earlier on. And I think this is great. And I can see the files that now it will be removing. And it's now replacing the requirements that is already created there with new requirements that don't have these files that we no longer need. And it has taken the trust that I granted earlier on, and it's just using that to create these new files or to remove the files that I don't need. So I didn't have to say I trust again because I had initially said I trust. And I can see that the files, there's been some changes being made already. It's replacing some of the other files that were created already, like the app file is going to be replaced. Okay, that's done. HTML is done, and now it's creating CSS files for this. So that's going to include some animation there, some styles of the button, the responsive adjustments that we might need, progress bar animation that we will need, what the cards would look like, the styles of the exercise, the chessboard styles, and just a general style of what the application will look like in the front end. So all the creation of the files is now finished. Before I go to how we'll run the application, let's just look at what was actually created in the end, because I get a summary of this as well. So Q says, I've built a simplified chess learning web application that launches directly into the learning experience without requiring login or authentication. That's what we asked for when I changed the instruction later on. And then it says, here's what I've created. I've created a chess learning web application, and it has these following files. There's the app file in Python. This is your main Flask application. And then the chess engine, the lessons, the requirements, and a README, which is great. And then the static side of it, I can see the style files that was created, and then I can see the templates, the landing page, the lesson selection page, and the interactive lesson page with chessboard. And then key features, because of what I asked for, it says no authentication is required here. There would be an interactive chessboard, there are structured lessons, there is interactive exercises that I will have, there is progress tracking, and there's responsive design. And then the lessons that are included when I launch this application are the introduction to chess, how the pieces will move, how the pawn and the rooks and the bishops, all these other pieces will move, and check and checkmate and stalemate, what that will look like. And now I get the next instruction on how to run this application. There are some installations that I need to do first before I can run this. Q will tell me, and then tells me how to then run this Flask application after that's done, and where in the browser to go and run this application. So let's now move on to that. So I have some requirements, dependencies that I need to install first. And I am not too comfortable with this side of it because the other steps that I need to follow first before I can do that. So I'm going to ask Q to take over that side of it. And I'm asking, please install the required dependencies for me. And now it is installing the dependencies into the virtual environment. What I also liked, what I saw after I said, please run the requirements and install the requirements for me. Q told me what will be taking place, but still I got the option to say, I don't think this is along the right track. So Q asked me, if you think this is a mistake, let us know, and then we will change what we actually do. So the virtual environment has been created, and now the requirements are being installed in the virtual environment. Okay, it looks like everything is now there and that we're ready to run the application. Let's see what we get. So Q tells me where to go on my browser, and where in the URL to go to run my application. I have a couple of other information that I have, well, like warnings that this is just on development, so don't use this in a production deployment. And now I'm going to go onto the URL and run it, and then let's go from there. The app is there and it's running. Now I'll play a bit and see what I can get. So just like we saw during the build, it's a chess learning app. And when you go onto it, it says learn chess online and master the game of kings with our interactive lessons and exercises. Now I'm going to start the learning now. I said earlier on that I don't want any authentication, no logins, no registrations. That has been taken away. It's not here. I can go directly and start learning how to play chess. So I'm going to click the button and it is taking me to the next screen where I can see chess lessons that I can play, available lessons that are there, an introduction to chess, how to learn about piece movements, and checkmate and stalemate. I think we saw that when HTML files were being created, we saw some of this there. So I'm going to start on the introduction to chess. I'm really liking this so far. It really is along the way of what I really wanted. And I like the fact that there are different lessons that I can go to here. There's an introduction to chess, and maybe if I prefer to just learn about how the different pieces work, I can go for that side of the lesson. So I'm liking this quite a bit. And I've chosen the introduction to chess, and now I can see the content, and let me play and then see what I actually get. And I can see some of the pieces did not load fully. I will go back and see why I'm going to go back and ask you why some of the images are not loading. The chess piece images are not loading. And the agent gets to work again, and I'm getting a response that I understand that the piece images are not loading, and now we are looking to see what's happening. She is saying we will fix this by creating a directory for the chess piece images, and then download the standard chess piece set, and then update the chessboard initialization to use the correct image path. And Q tells me how this will happen, which directory will be created, and how we will need to make all the modifications, and then also what needs to be downloaded. Then Q says, let me help you implement these changes to fix the chess piece images that are not loading. And I do appreciate this part, because at this point I'm starting to feel a bit overwhelmed. So I will say, yes, please help me fix the chess piece images not loading. Then it gets to work again. Okay, I can see some of the files that have been updated that will now point to the correct directory that will have the images that we're looking for. So I can see already that the lesson HTML has been updated to now point to this new directory. And there's another update of the actual images in the directory. So we have a total of 48 images that were downloaded and they've been installed. And we're now done with the installation of them. And now there's an update to the JavaScript to now point to the new directory for these new images. And Now I get another instruction from Q. Let's read this and understand what's going on. So Q now says to me, now when you run the application, the chess pieces should display correctly on the board. The images are using the standard Wikipedia chess piece that comes with chessboard.js. And now to run the application, this is what I need to run first. Okay, so the command that I have will change the directory to the chess learning app folder. It will activate the Python virtual environment and it will run the Flask application. That was the command that I was given earlier on. That's what I need to run before I go back to my browser. I'm still getting an error. So I'm going to go back to Q and ask how to fix this error. I still get an error. Site can't be reached. And that's my command. And the agent is working again. So Q tells me that first, let's check if the Flask application is running correctly. And we already ran the command. It's saying that I should be getting output that indicates that the server is running. And I do not remember seeing that. And it says next that if I don't see that output, which I did not see, there's probably an issue with the Flask application. And then I'm running on WSL, on Windows Subsystem for Linux. So it says if you're using Windows Subsystem for Linux, there might be a networking issue between Windows and WSL. Before I even get to that part, I want to check if maybe the first part is what's causing me the error. So I will run, I'm going to copy this URL again as it's being given here. Okay, let me run the first application from the beginning again. So this first application is, this first command is the one that we ran very first on, where we went to the virtual environment and then we ran the application from there. Okay, there is a part that I was missing. I think there's a portion of the command that Q gave me earlier on that I missed when I did the copy and paste. I missed the bash portion of the command, and now I am copying with bash included. Q actually will run the command for me, but before that happens, I need to change the directory to my chess learning app folder, which I am not in that directory as yet, and that's why I've been missing everything. Let's try again and see what we get. Okay, I'm confused here. I thought that I have to run the command, but Q is saying Q has to run the command. And when I run it, I still get the error. And then Q says Q will run the command. At this point, I'm not sure what I'm missing. So I'm going to ask Q to just help me out because I'm a bit lost. So using natural language, I will say, I don't understand. I don't understand who should be running the command. Me or you, Q? I'm asking. Let's see what we get. The agent is working again. And Q is saying, I should be running the command because Q is an assistant that's here to help me with instructions and guidance, but can't directly execute commands on my system. And that's a good thing. It goes back to the trust. It goes back to you as the developer, the person building, staying in control of what's happening with your code and what's happening in your environment. So Q is telling me that to run the application, I need to go and open a command prompt on my computer, which right now I don't have. And once I've done that, I can then run the instruction, which I was not doing that before. And that's why I was getting all the errors that I was getting. Let's try that again and then see what we get. I'm going to copy the command that I got from Q and then go and open a command, which Before, I was not doing that. Okay, that's in a separate window. I did that, and it seems to have worked. And now that should be enough to start the Flask web server on my machine so that when I go onto my browser, the app can run. Let's see if that has helped at all. I started the Flask web server as suggested by Q. And when I come to my browser and I enter the URL, I can see that my application does load. Before I start to go into some of the lessons and to interrogate them, let's look at what we actually built here. We have a chess learning app, and it is helping us learn chess online. And just like we asked earlier on, I said I don't want registration or authentication of users. I want to directly go in and start learning, and it's doing exactly that. But just something interesting as well, we do get a write-up here of why you would want to learn chess. Some of the reasons are improve critical thinking, boost your memory, and develop patience. So now let's start learning and see what lessons we have. We saw earlier on when we were building that there was going to be tracking of whether the lessons are completed or not completed. And we can see that's there. There are few lessons that we can do here. There's an introduction to chess, learn about the movements of the different pieces on the chessboard. And you can also, there's another lesson where you can learn about check and checkmate and stalemate conditions. I think that's really great. And though there's also a tracking on number of lessons completed of the 5 lessons that we have here, an average score that also will be maintained and that can be displayed to you. So let's start with the introduction to chess. The main thing was to make sure that those images actually are there. And I think this is awesome. The chessboard is displaying and the images this time are displaying because we've gone through all that troubleshooting that we went through to make sure that we're getting the images on. And this lesson, you can see the content of it on the side tells you more about the chessboard and what that's about, the chess pieces that you have, the different starting positions. And I think this looks awesome. I can't wait to actually start using this to learn my chess, to learn how to play chess. And I think it's awesome that we've made it this far. We've got the chessboard, we've got the different pieces on it, and the images are there. And now I will get stuck on learning how to play chess. And then maybe we can see also what other features that I want to add later on. And I'm really happy about this. I think this looks awesome. So in this demo, we learned how we can use Q in the command line to build applications from scratch. We saw how Q helped us troubleshoot when we do hit some bugs along the way. We also saw where Q will tell us the instruction for us to run when it's our turn to have control of what's happening in the process. I was able to chat with Q using natural language. Learn more by checking out the links shared in the description box below. If you like this video and want more hands-on technical content, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the AWS Developers YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.